Never see a shooting?
No.
But you said you did?
Yes.
For these reporters, the official story is never sufficient.
Everything kept saying these guys are innocent.
Their ultimate goal? To uncover the truth.
We call for a full investigation.
We are watchdogs.
For June 11th, 2001, this is Investigative Reports.
From politics to crime to allegations of police misconduct, New York City is a hotbed for news. And there in the trenches are hundreds of journalists ready to expose.
Don't give it up.
The story.
You didn't ever see the shooting?
No.
But you said you did?
Yes.
For these reporters, the official story is never sufficient.
Everything kept saying these guys are innocent.
Their ultimate goal? To uncover the truth.
We call for a full investigation.
We are watchdogs.
For June 11th, 2001, this is Investigative Reports.
From politics to crime to allegations of police misconduct, New York City is a hotbed for news. And there in the trenches are hundreds of journalists ready to expose corruption and fraud. Tonight, Investigative Reports pounds the pavement with two of Manhattan's toughest reporters. One, a well-known crime reporter for the New York Post. The other, an investigative journalist for one of the city's major television stations. Whether they're covering breaking news or digging into past crimes, both are on a mission to uncover evidence, get exclusive interviews, and provide the public with another perspective to a story. Come with us tonight on assignment in New York City with the Beat Reporters. There is no other metropolis in the world covered in the media more than New York City. A high-profile murder here can become the lead story in every country in the world. Reporters all over the city are on the job day and night to find the next big story.
Have an incident.
Mark Stamey is a crime beat reporter for the city's largest selling paper, the New York Post.
You know, I used to really like this city. The thrills of like just being in New York were just so high. And now everywhere I go in this town, I go past a monster movie. Of somebody nailing their kid to the wall or stuffing another kid in a trash compactor or, you know, blowing somebody's brains out, whatever change they have in their pocket. Let's go around the BQE. If we get down 497, go down Woodhaven Boulevard, 497, take exit 31, we'll get off at Kent Avenue exit.
Since becoming a crime beat reporter 7 years ago, Stamey has covered over 5,000 stories. His job puts him face to face with the most extreme forms of human misery.
Did you hear anything about a shooting on 157? It's a calling, it's not a job. You have to have the madness. Sorry, I'm a reporter, New York Post. It has to draw you in. It has to beguile you. It's like something horrible that you can't take your eyes from.
In addition to 5 daily papers, New York City has over a dozen television and cable channels. On most nights, crime dominates the news. Sarah Wallace, a 16-year veteran, is chief investigative reporter for WABC News.
Hey, Marty, you ready?
5 minutes in front of the building. I'm loading up right now.
All right, see you then. I like to do stories that have a social impact, whether it be homelessness, the mentally ill, the criminal justice system, what's working, what's not working, why it's not working. Can we just run by something? Yeah, okay.
In Sarah's investigative units, many of the stories are brought to their attention by anonymous callers on a 24-hour tip line.
Doctor called the tip line, Cliffside, in New Jersey, someplace. He says that we should check of a murder that occurred maybe a month and a half ago, where an old man, antique dealer, was found dead at his home. His home was set on fire. What the tipper is telling us, it's actually that the old man was killed.
The ideal story for me is something where I can peel away the superficial layer and expose what's underneath, whether it be corruption or fraud or just a different perspective from something that you'd get from a politician or an official.
The biggest running story of the year has been alleged police misconduct. A series of controversial police shootings has the city at boiling point. Amadou Diallo, an African immigrant, was shot 41 times in a case that's eroded New Yorkers' faith in police and is contributing to deepening racial tension.
Prejudice-ass white cops in black neighborhoods to shoot up black youth and the adults. That's what you motherfuckers do.
2 days after the officers in the Diallo shooting are found not guilty, another unarmed black man, 23-year-old Malcolm Ferguson, is shot in the head by a police officer.
Tonight, a police officer shoots an apparently unarmed man just blocks from where Amadou Diallo was killed.
The victim, a 23-year-old man, police say, was a known drug dealer who was on parole.
The weapon itself has blood on it, indicating close proximity.
Under Mayor Giuliani's tough-on-crime administration, street cops aren't permitted to speak to the media. The only information released to the public are prepared statements sanctioned by the mayor and his top officials.
Can you tell us? No, we won't go into that this time.
I would think if we can't support our police officers in a situation like this, we can't support our police officers ever.
In an unusual and controversial decision, New York City officials released the criminal and juvenile records of the victim to the media.
Mr. Ferguson is categorized by our Narcotics Bureau as a career narcotic criminal.
While the city is portraying the shooting as proper police work, it's Stamey's job to find out if there's another side to the Malcolm Ferguson story.
And here are the P's. You have to do the pad, the pen, the press pass. Here's the phone, pager. I need some presidents.
After years on the street, Stamey has built a network of contacts. He gets a tip from Ferguson's lawyer, Andrew Miller, who tells him the official story doesn't add up.
Andrew. Right, Andrew Miller? Yeah.
The mayor claims he was shot while resisting arrest. The Ferguson family counters that it's a revenge killing for a lawsuit he'd filed against the police.
But, move your card. Yeah.
While waiting to interview Ferguson's mother, Stamey briefs his photographer.
Turns out, this guy was preparing to file quite a hefty lawsuit against the city for police brutality, alleging that when he was arrested with some of these drugs that disappeared before he got to court, they handcuffed him with his thumb in the handcuff itself, like this. Broke his thumb almost off. So he had it pinned in 4 places, in his thumb. Yeah? All these charges they're saying he did with all these drugs and everything else like that. However, I must remind you, they were dropped.
In the last 12 months, there have been 23 police killings in the city. As the headlines increase, so does the tension between police and the press.
The top 3 stories of today in the paper, and the rotation on the television news, are stories about police misconduct.
They're going to shoot at somebody from the press one of these days because they're not going to like what we're doing. We're going to be too close to a scene, and they're not going to want us there, and they're going to push us out of the way, and somebody's gun's going to go off.
I say I had 2 years at this, especially at night.
We've been pushed around so much that's going to happen.
Let's get up there right now while their faces are turned. Is that door open? Close it. Let's get in here and get out of sight.
Stamey wants to protect his exclusive interview with the family.
I hate to do this because you're his friend, but you're not coming in with us. I'm sorry, and I don't mean this in a bad way. Here he goes. Look. Yeah, I'm telling you, it won't do you any good. I'm not going to let you in. You can stop right now. I'm serious. Never mind calling. I'm not going to let you get in. Now, you're going to follow me. You're going to be standing here. You're going to be standing downstairs.
In this competitive news market, the true test of a star journalist is the ability to get the scoop.
Andrew, I'm sorry to bother you. Let me in if you can now because we're getting jammed behind us. And this will be the only time we'll be able to get past them. No, listen to me. Listen. I'm outside the door. Can we just come in to get out of the way so these other people don't come in? I'm sorry to do this. I just had a little dispute with him downstairs.
Staying right over here.
Okay, good.
You know, like I said, try to go easy on her.
Where was he?
Outside on the street, more reporters arrive on the scene.
We are in competition with those other papers, certainly. for that reason alone, I owe it to my boss to be as exclusionary as I can. I want to take as much time as necessary to represent everybody clearly the way they want to be represented. Tell me about your son.
My son did not deserve what they did to him. He was not a bad boy. He was not a bad man. He had his problems, but he was making a change. And he should not have been shot like that.
I want you to explain exactly what happened when the police notified you.
Okay, I went downstairs and I opened the door and they said they wanted to speak to me. I said, tell me right now what's the problem. He said something about Malcolm Ferguson was shot. He's dead. He started smiling. I punched that right in his face.
Okay,
well, I'm telling you what I did.
I understand, but just use a different
He was
word.
smiling as he told me that my son was shot. Then he had the nerve to come behind me to harass me some more. And I turned around, and I don't care what people say. I kicked him dead in his chest.
Wait. We're not going to use that.
I don't care.
I'm not listening, but I want to hear. We can let her say it because God have mercy, I'd be saying it too.
He told me they found Malcolm shot in a building.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. I said to him, you killed my son. Don't lie to me. You killed my son. You shot him.
After he told you that, did he say anything?
The family claims that at the time of the incident, they weren't informed that it was the police who had shot their son.
Let me tell you.
Information. The only way we found out that Malcolm was shot by the police is we seen it on the news.
Did he have historical reason to be worried about being confronted with the
Because he
police?
had been abused by the cops before. They broke his hand. They refused him medical treatment for like 2 days before he was seen by a medical doctor.
He was suing the city for money. They knew it, right? And he was naming the cops as the ones that assaulted him. Isn't that reason enough that they would want to be in his face all the time?
I believe they did it because of the suit he has against the city. They're against the police force.
Following the exclusive with the mother, the lawyers offer a prepared statement to the press.
This tragedy extends beyond the family of Malcolm Ferguson. Mr. Ferguson was not a violent person, and even though he had several minor drug arrests, he had contacted various local institutions of higher learning in order to complete his education and to move on to a better life. The family is very suspicious of this shooting, and we call for a full investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is his point that it was the same crew that he was having problems with?
Just our suspicions. I mean,
if your suspicions are true, that would make this an assassination.
The death of Malcolm Ferguson has journalists asking tough questions, and Stamey's exclusive interview with the family is threatened. When we return. Mark Stamey's pursuit of an exclusive interview with the family of shooting victim Malcolm Ferguson is challenged by other reporters covering the story. But in a moment of professional camaraderie, Stamey escorts a photographer from a competing paper upstairs. Unfortunately for Jim, that blows his photo exclusive.
Must.
Bro, you know me. I'm not gonna.
He won't do it, and neither will I.
It's not my place to do anything like that.
Right, Malcolm was good to you, right? He was nice to you?
Jim, I'm sorry, man. I wasn't kidding. Huh? You should have spoken up.
How about you speak up? He's already standing when I turn around.
Next time, open your mouth and tell him to get out. I don't want to take the rap for the fact that you don't have the guts to tell him to get out. Malcolm Ferguson is shot. He's dead. He says whenever he'd get off a bus at Westchester Avenue, the police would follow him.
As a leg man on the street, Stamey calls in his stories to a rewrite editor.
We had a prepared statement. This is a general...
While on the phone, another reporter makes it through the door.
Another reporter just walked in. There goes my exclusive. You got to pick up your food. But while you're at it, call the psychics and have them give you the rest of the story, okay? I'm under a lot of pressure here, man. I can't mess around. Go eat, Andy. Goodbye. Next question, what can we do for you? We have to know, because you can't be holding this whole burden by yourself.
Just tell the truth. My son didn't deserve it.
I need the mother to speak in her own words about the human dimension on this because it's been overlooked. So far we've heard one side of his story. I want to hear about the stuff that the cops won't tell us.
A day after the shooting, Stamey's first article is printed.
In terms of what my particular part of the process is, I really like street reporting and doing the legwork, getting out there and writing the story.
While it's Stamey's job as a crime beat reporter to follow the news as it happens, Sarah Wallace is an investigative journalist. She takes the time to dig into past crimes in an attempt to expose possible wrongdoing.
We are watchdogs, and I know that term's been overused, but we are. There has to be somebody who holds politicians and officials and companies accountable. And I think that's our role, my role.
In 1987, a cab driver was murdered in Brooklyn. Anthony Faison and Charles Shepard were convicted and sent to prison on the testimony of one witness. 13 years later, the witness says she lied. An investigator working for the men believes his story might force a retrial.
Delivery cab driver pulls up on a call, pulls over right by these garbage bags, and stops. The witness is in this building, looking out, speaking to her boyfriend. Sees the people coming through the parking lot on your left.
Wallace is told there were two other witnesses the night of the crime who were certain police got the wrong men.
Takes out a gun and shoots him once in the head. Correct.
They were never called to testify.
And Carolyn Van Buren is nowhere to be.
Never at the scene of the crime.
Why did she testify?
For $500.
She split the money with another person who actually came up with the idea to make her a witness. His name is Ronald Roper.
So the case goes dead for a couple days, and then the phone calls start with this gentleman putting Carolyn Van Buren up to doing this whole case. And that's why we're here, to correct something that was unjustly done 13 years ago.
After years of silence, Carolyn Van Buren reveals why she lied.
Carolyn, this is Sarah Wiles from Channel 7.
Hi, this is Marty. How are you? I'm fine. You didn't ever see the shooting?
No.
But you said you did?
Yes.
Why?
Money from tips.
The tip line?
Yeah.
Okay, you thought you were going to get money?
Yeah.
Who set you up to this?
Nicky Roper.
He just said, I want you to finger these guys?
Yeah.
And
a witness admitting on camera to setting up two innocent men for money is critical to her story.
Where were you at the time of the shooting?
Upstairs in my house.
When did you decide that you were going to tell the truth?
I've been wanting to tell the truth, but the detective told me I would go to jail.
The detective told you you'd go to jail if you told the truth?
Yeah, if I changed my statement. What? Say, if you change the story, you can go to jail. Perjury.
That's before the trial?
Yeah, before the trial.
Why are you willing to say now that you lied?
Because I was thinking about it and thinking about it, and it could have been my son in there. And them boys did 15 years.
Okay, now some people might say, hey, you lied once, maybe you're lying again.
No, I'm telling the truth this time. I didn't see anything. I was out there for the dogs, but said $500. You get excited.
I'm not going to put my credibility on the line with something I don't think is kosher. But, you know, I will invest the time. And if something happens down the road where I think somebody wasn't honest with me, whether there's some shred of evidence that I can cover where it changes the story, I'll back off. I'll just dump the story. It's, you know, you can't do it if you're not convinced. And I have to be passionate about the story, or it doesn't work for me.
While Sarah Wallace tries to verify if the wrong men were convicted for a murder 15 years ago, Mark Stamey pursues the police version of a killing that took place last week. That's next. In a city where police are tight-lipped with the news media, it's up to journalists to dig deep to uncover information about a story. Reporter Mark Stamey's investigation into the death of Malcolm Ferguson, an African-American killed by New York City police, is leaving him with more questions than answers. Was Ferguson shot while resisting arrest, or the victim of an execution-style killing? To get the officer's side of the story, Stamey calls the police department's Office of Public Information.
My name is Mark Stamey. I'm a reporter for the New York Post. I'm working on something that involves a shooting of Malcolm Ferguson, a man up in the Bronx. He was shot by Officer Louis Rivera. I wondered if there's any way I could be put in touch with Officer Rivera. If I can get a comment from him on this, it would help me run out the story a lot. Yeah. I do understand, of course. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. They declined to put the officer up for public comment. They say that he's under litigation, that he is subject to a lawsuit, and it is not in his best interest to talk to the press at this point. When I started this job, the police were often my best source of information. That is no longer the case. And when the story has anything to do with alleged police wrongdoing, the blue wall of silence immediately goes up. On top of that, the Police Department of Public Information is a misnomer. It's really the Department of No Information.
Come back, everybody keep going. Keep going, please keep going.
You see my 3 pictures and the 3 stories?
Without information from police, Stamey returns to Malcolm Ferguson's lawyer. He needs physical evidence to keep the story in the news.
Listen, this is basically the gist of it. On February 14th, this officer miraculously does this frisk of our client and the search incident to an arrest, and does not find these 12 bags containing rock-like substances in our client's shirt. It wasn't until
Twice, Malcolm was arrested for drug possession. In each instance, the case was dropped because of lack of evidence.
Into his pocket, took out the drugs, and gave it to the officer.
Stamey has witnessed many arrests and raises questions about the police account.
The perpetrator is brought to this cell with a handcuff behind his back. You know how they reach in his pocket and hand it to this guy? They don't unchain him to bring him in.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's an excellent. That's a really good point. If these are such major weights of drugs, we all know this is Giuliani's New York. Why were they dropping these charges? The DA knew that these were bad searches. They knew that these drugs didn't exist. They knew that our client had been flaked. This is the surgical report.
After his thumb was broken by the police, Malcolm Ferguson filed $1 million lawsuit against the police department.
My newspaper, again, there's no such thing as physicians. It's all doctors. There's no such thing as attorneys or all lawyers. So we have to say it in basic, plain language for the people that read the paper and ride the subways. And that is, the cops crushed his hand. Yes. And we got papers to prove it. It's a great story. It's emblematic of dozens and dozens of other stories that are just like rubber stamped the same. This is just a poster boy for a phenomenon that's been going on as long as I've been covering the news in New York.
Stamey believes he's beginning to establish a pattern of police harassment against Ferguson that might have led to his death. The next step in getting this version of the story printed is convincing a skeptical editor.
There are a lot of discrepancies between the reports that they filed for the police department, a lot of strange procedural variations. There were 2 autopsy reports. One was done by the family, one was done by it. They basically paralleled each other.
Why can't we get those actual documents so we can just look at it? If they have a case to make, give us that stuff. That's only going to help them. That makes me a little suspicious that it may not all be there in the paper. And I don't think you have it yet. You got to get more before you have a story or not.
So I don't know. I mean, is this at all interesting?
I think it is. We can keep going with it, but you got to document a lot of stuff here. You know.
Thanks, John.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Although the Ferguson lawyers were eager to show Stamey the documents, they're unwilling to release them publicly for fear of jeopardizing their case. Determined to continue pursuing the story of potential police wrongdoing, Stamey goes to the crime scene to talk to witnesses.
I'm a newspaper reporter. I'm here because of what happened to Malcolm. I just need to talk to people that knew him.
I'm not interested.
All right.
Let's go.
How you doing?
Can I help you guys? I'm the super of the billboard.
Yeah, you can. I'm a reporter for the Post.
Yes, sir.
I'm here because of, Malcolm.
Malcolm.
Yeah. And the crime scene people cleaned up?
Did they clean up? Yeah. They changed the light bulbs so they could have more light, and they cleaned up after the fact.
They took out the fluorescent lights and put those bulbs in?
And put those bulbs in.
In his 7 years as a reporter, Stamey has never seen a crime scene that was cleaned by the police. He becomes suspicious.
Matter of fact, I've never seen these floors as clean as the cops did.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out, put this thing back together, reconstruct it. It's just a lot of weird things. They don't make sense to me. I'm hearing the mayor's side of it. I'm coming here, I'm looking. Two sides don't match up.
Right.
I'm very curious.
According to them, the guy fell here, right?
The inconsistencies raised doubts and spur Stamey to investigate further.
All this was covered with blood. Here, that's blood. Right there.
How could they clean it so well and miss the goddamn blood here?
Yeah, and there was another spot somewhere around here. And
why would they clean the place up? They don't ever do that.
Right. Suspicious to me too, but I don't know. I'm not a cop.
I'm not a cop either. According to my boss, I'm not even a very good reporter. But I'm very miffed. I'm even more confused by this now. I appreciate your help.
No problem.
Stamey's sources claim the police from the anti-crime unit pushed their way into the front door of the building. Malcolm Ferguson, who was standing with 3 other men, scattered down the corridor and up the stairs.
She got time for me one more time? On the floor?
One of the officers caught up to Malcolm on the 2nd floor and shot him in the head.
Yeah, the hand is upstairs.
According to police, they were chasing a known drug dealer, and in an ensuing struggle, the victim was shot. But witnesses tell Stamey that when the officer caught up to Ferguson on the 2nd floor, he offered no resistance. No drugs or weapons were found on his body. Outside the building, Stamey uses his charm to get another witness to talk.
When I first saw Malcolm, I went into it like a trauma. I was like traumatized. But when I saw Malcolm in the church, laying in that casket, that's when I came out of my trauma and I went berserk. I started screaming, Malcolm, get out of this casket. This is not you. Get out, get out, get out.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry about your friend.
And I only knew him for 3 years.
That's a long time.
The Puerto Rican cop that shot Malcolm told the other cop, yo, I shot him.
The 3 of them rushed in the building? Did one of them go upstairs? Did 2 of them go upstairs? Did 3 of them go upstairs?
I only seen 2 cops, the white cop and the Puerto Rican cop. They were standing there with the flashlight in Malcolm's face. So Richie, my sister, picks up Malcolm by the collar, and boom, that's when we saw the bloody battle. I said, oh no. I feel like this really crying because of what's going on.
We're going to be back. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to see each other again. It boils down to this, that if Officer Rivera shot Malcolm Ferguson during a struggle, he acted appropriately and in the line of duty. But when I was doing my legwork in the Bronx, I met other people whose versions were at odds with the official version. They said Malcolm didn't struggle and that he was shot execution style. At that point, the homicide becomes a murder.
While Stamey's sources believe Ferguson was the victim of an execution-style killing, the Post editor takes a more cautious position.
I know I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's very difficult to keep those things under wraps. The simplest explanation usually is the right explanation. That doesn't mean that the government always tells us the truth. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying for things to be very complicated and to be held under wraps and for the real information not to get out is a very difficult task. It's like water finding its natural level. It gets out. It just does. One way or another, whether it's a reporter who's dedicated and gets it out, whether there's a whistleblower in government who wants to get the information out, some do-gooder, or by accident.
While demonstrating a police cover-up is proving to be difficult for Stamey, Sarah Wallace continues her investigation into a potential wrongful conviction. When we return. Sarah Wallace's investigation into a possible wrongful conviction story continues. She meets the convicted men, Faison and Shepard, in prison. They tell her they were set up by Nicky Roper.
So Roper was mad at you.
Yes, over a construction job.
He wanted a job and you wouldn't give it to him.
I told him straight, I don't feel that you're reliable.
There has been no
physical evidence found in this case whatsoever. No firearm, no fingerprints, no weapons, no anything. Just Carolyn Van Buren.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not bitter, because I am bitter, because I've lost a lot. But I would believe in being raised up in a Christian family back home, you have to forgive. You have to forgive them.
It's a great loss, very painful, inside the prison, being locked in a cage, and then to speak out and voice my innocence and no one believes me. Very hard.
Wallace returns to the crime scene in Brooklyn to shoot what in television is called the stand-up. Her commentary will later be cut into the show.
3, 2, 1. You're probably saying, we've heard that before. After all, don't most inmates assert their innocence, claiming they've been victimized by the system? But this case isn't just about the word of 2 defendants. It involves sworn statements by witnesses and evidence that strongly suggests when cops made an arrest in this case, it was case closed. And that was going to be that. You guys live here? You guys know Nicky Roper?
In pursuit of the story, Sarah asks some neighborhood kids if they know Nicky Roper, the man who Carolyn Van Buren says put her up to the lie.
Can you page him?
By coincidence, the 2 men know Nicky Roper and are able to contact him.
Could you go wake him up for me?
I mean, I gotta go down to his house.
I'll take you down there.
See, that's what I was trying to avoid.
How about if I take you down there, you go in there without us?
You is good. How long you been down?
Long time.
Ooh, you is all right. I like that. Oh, that's probably him. Yo, you asleep? Come downstairs for a minute. Oh, you want to speak to him?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yo, Nikki? Hi, it's Sarah Wallace. Hi, it's Sarah Wallace from Channel 7. How are you? Do you think we could talk to you for a few minutes? About the fact that you've signed an affidavit stating that that these guys didn't do it. Okay. Do you think I could just talk to you for a few minutes? Well, that's okay. I'll come over to where you are. You want me to come over to your house? Just me. Can I come up? Don't worry about it. I'm not going to do anything you don't want me to do. Do you want to help these guys get out of prison or not? Okay. Then just talk to me for a few minutes. That's all I'm asking you to do. Okay. I'm going to bring Jogger with me.
Roper still lives across the street where the murder took place.
Jogger!
Why did you decide to tell the truth now?
Because I felt that I wasn't getting high no more. And it's time for to start telling the truth.
Okay, what is the truth?
That they didn't do it.
Why did you tell her to finger them?
I was mad at them at the time.
For?
Because I was getting high and they didn't give me a construction job.
And that's the real truth?
Yeah.
Did you ever think about coming forward before?
I was f***ed up then. Excuse my French. I was high on crack, you know what I'm saying?
And she was too, right?
Yeah.
Was it hearsay about who really did it?
I'm not sure. I was high then. I was getting high back then.
Do you feel bad about it?
Yeah, I feel bad. Because I ain't getting high no more. And when you I don't know if you ever got high before, but when you get high for that type of stuff, it just take control of your mind. You know what I'm saying? It's like you'll do anything to get high, basically.
Here was an eyewitness who was now changing her story. It had different aspects that made it deeper than just the I'm innocent, I didn't do it story that so many defendants tell you. It had layers. And when you started looking at the layers, everything kept saying, these guys are innocent.
While Sarah's story begins to bear fruit, Stamey's investigation uncovers inconsistencies with the official version. But no irrefutable evidence that the police shooting was criminal.
I just wanted to come and say to the family that you're not alone, that all across this community, people are concerned, and we will continue to scrutinize and continue to investigate. We will not let it rest until justice be done.
I feel as though I'm seeing ghosts, like I know something and I can't get people to participate in my hallucination. But these hallucinations are photographs, police reports that say homicide, official versions of the story. Hello, City Desk. Ruth?
Hi, Mark Stamey.
It's been 3 months since Stamey began investigating the Malcolm Ferguson case. The final decision to print the story remains in the hands of the editor.
Out the other side, through the skull, not through the skin. Bounces off the skin, back into the skull. Just so you know, there was no sign of drug abuse. He didn't have any drugs in his system. No sign of tracks. No, well, I mean, he'd been arrested for it before, but they always dropped the charges. So he'd been set up. Basically, you know what happened, Chris? This guy went to sue the city. He got his hand broken in arrest, sued the cops for $5 million. They keep finding him, they keep getting even, you know? Anyway, that's basically it. Thin story, so.
All right, well, listen, let me know what's going on with the office.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get that together.
Okay, buddy, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chris.
Despite all his work, the editor refuses to print Stamey's version of the story.
Well, the Post has decided this guy's no good, so that's the way the story's gonna come out. The initial statements by the mayor and the police commissioner, which are basically accessible for us to use in the story, came out and said that this guy was a bad guy. He deserved what he got. So, as I told the lawyer, it's very Orwellian. You control the past, you control the future. They got the story in, and that's the fact now.
For now, Stamey's reporting of the Malcolm Ferguson shooting is over. For Sarah Wallace, her investigation into the possible wrongful conviction story takes her back to the courts where it all began. When we come back. Should law enforcement work more closely with reporters to solve crimes? You tell us at ANE.com.
Consider the time, an exploding crack epidemic, violent crime out of control, tremendous pressure to clear cases. So
Wallace has done her research and shooting. Now she sits with her editor to put the story together.
Offering up 2 names in connection with the murder of a livery cab driver. No matter, she was...
That's why I wanted to shoot in sepia. I was trying to create an environment where that was then and this
Right.
now, you know, so...
Also, do you think we should see Carolyn when we're saying Carolyn?
We do have tremendous power, and it's power to inspire people to change, to look at something differently. And we have accountability to the public. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is thinking that the public isn't smart. Our viewers are really smart, and they know when you do something and your heart is in it, they respect that. My goal is to take facts and present them. Whatever facts may be in a particular story, I want to give facts to people and let them make a decision.
To complete the investigation, Wallace arranges a private interview with the judge who presided over the original trial.
Do you remember anything about Carolyn Van Buren and how credible she was or was not on the stand?
I can tell you this, at the conclusion of the case...
If convinced there's new evidence, the judge has the authority to grant a retrial.
If I tried the case myself, in other words, if I were the trier of the fact, I think I would have found them both guilty, just as the jury did.
In this case, Carolyn Van Buren freely now says that she lied. A gentleman supports her, in fact, and says that he put her up to it. There's an eyewitness who says it wasn't them. Somebody else who says that, in fact, she knows somebody who it really may have been. That's pretty strong evidence, and nothing else that puts them there.
Did you talk to the district attorney about this case?
Yes.
What did they say?
They won't comment. They're referring it to the courts.
All I can tell you is that if they made a motion, I would very carefully consider it and make a decision based on what I thought was right. At this point, I'm not at all convinced that they didn't commit this crime and that she didn't see it. It's as simple as that.
But you'd be open if there were something that convinced you, another witness,
I'd
other people.
always be open to some new evidence that would indicate that a person was wrongfully convicted. To me, that there's nothing worse than an innocent person spending time in jail for a crime he didn't commit. Nothing worse.
I think it warrants another hearing, and I hope he heard what I had to say, and I hope he realized that there are, in fact, new elements of this case. 3, 2,
1. The Brooklyn District Attorney refused to be interviewed for this story, claiming it is up to the courts to overturn convictions and that so far no judge has seen fit to do that. The argument, under the law, there is no new evidence here.
You know, the problem is that the system oftentimes, after the fact, relies on the legal minutia about is this new evidence, and some appeals court or I think some clerk looks at this and says, well, this doesn't fit the exact criterion of something, and so we're not going to look at it. When in fact, it's not always that cut and dry.
Malcolm Ferguson's death wasn't the only controversial story unfolding in the city. Patrick Dorismond was killed in Midtown Manhattan after being approached by undercover police officers at a random drug sting. Once again, to explain a police shooting, Giuliani orders the release of Patrick Dorismond's rap sheet. Steamy hits the streets again.
Sucking our blood. He's a vampire. He's killing us one by one. He gotta go.
In my 7 years as a reporter, I've never seen the city so divided. While the mayor automatically defends every police action, the minority community is outraged.
With the attention shifting to the Dorismond case, the Ferguson family and their lawyers organize a press conference.
Here, the New York City's medical examiner has ruled the matter a homicide.
6 weeks have passed since the Bronx District Attorney's Office concluded its investigation. A decision whether to indict hasn't been revealed. The Ferguson family uses the media to keep pressure on authorities.
We call upon the medical examiner and the district attorney to release the official autopsy report to settle the questions surrounding Malcolm's death. Science does not lie. The physical evidence will speak for itself.
As Malcolm's father, I'm greatly disappointed at the DA's stonewalling here, arriving at a determination as to whether to indict or not indict.
Mr. Miller has said mostly what I would have said. Only thing now I call is execution police style. He never had a chance.
Pretty strong stuff, though, to suggest that the NYPD is behaving like a death squad, a la, I don't know, El Salvador or something.
There are many fine officers in the New York City Police, but there's clearly an element that's out of control, and they take their direction from the top.
3 months since beginning the investigation, Sarah Wallace is ready to go on air with her news segment, Justice Denied.
3, 2...
For 13 years, they've maintained their innocence.
2 Brooklyn men convicted of murder, both serving life sentences. But now, an extraordinary twist in the case. New evidence suggests the wrong men may be behind bars. Chief Investigative Correspondent Sarah Wallace joins us now with a several-month investigation that may very well be a case of justice denied. Sarah.
Well, Bill and Sandra, this is a story of murder, revenge, an eyewitness with a motive to lie, and a private investigator with no motive but the truth. It is not an episode of The Practice. This case is real, and we may have uncovered a web of deceit that's about to unravel.
He's only 34, but Anthony Faison is already a 13-year veteran of New York State prisons. His most recent residence...
I would like to say that we had an influence on making officials pay attention. I hope that's true. The problem is, unless you keep the pressure on, I don't think they pay attention.
Stand by.
By the way, both men took lie detector tests in prison and passed. A motion for a new hearing will be filed before the trial judge this week. Time is of the essence. Carolyn Van Buren has AIDS. She told us she wants to clear her conscience before she dies.
Oh,
Bill, Sandra.
And you'll keep us posted.
Of course I will.
All right.
It pains me. I really believe that there is an injustice in that case. I always deal with people's lives, but in this case, I'm dealing with their freedom. And that the stakes were higher in this case. And I was very proud of what we put on the air. I was very proud of the way we did it. But I would like nothing more to stand outside that prison when those guys get out.
3 months after the death of Malcolm Ferguson, the district attorney makes his decision public.
Not be fanned by a grand jury. The Bronx District Attorney's Office has concluded the shooting was unintentional and not criminal.
The Ferguson family gets the news they did not want to hear.
at the facts, we compared it to the law, and we decided that there's no need to go forward.
The only thing I could have done in the Ferguson story is to, like, let it not be neglected so that it would run the due process according to what every citizen should expect from the law. In other words, it looked like it was going to die in the vine. It looked like it was going to die in the vine deliberately. And all I wanted to see that story do would be reach a grand jury who could decide for the public whether or not there was enough evidence to bring it to trial. It's still a story, but it's not a post story.
Within days of the district attorney decision not to indict, the family initiated a multi-million-dollar wrongful death lawsuit against the city. Sarah Wallace's hard work paid off. After watching the segment on TV, celebrated defense attorney Ron Kuby came forward to handle the Anthony Faison and Charles Shepard case pro bono. Sometimes journalists can have a profound impact on people's lives. Sarah Wallace's search for justice in the Anthony Faison and Charles Shepard case was successful. A few months after she reported the story, a judge overturned their murder convictions. Both men were released from prison after 14 years behind bars. For Wallace, who wanted to be at the prison when they got out, this wasn't just a story about exposing a sometimes unjust system. It was a life-changing experience for her and for the two men who are now free. I'm Bill Curtis. Thanks for watching Investigative Reports here on A&E.